things I never really felt or got that a lot of people seem to is when you have a child. It's kind of a cliched phrase that, once you looked in their eyes or once you held them for the first time, your whole life changed. You felt totally different. Everything about you was different, whatever, right? You get the idea. I never felt that. Not when my son was born, for sure. It just didn't seem, well, I guess mainly it just wasn't what I felt, right? It just wasn't genuine. Why I didn't feel it, who knows, right? Maybe I'm an asshole. Maybe I'm lying to myself. Maybe I'm just not as honest with myself as I'd like to be, or maybe I'm just not that reflective enough or thoughtful enough to realize it. Could be a lot of reasons. The reason that I think it is it just never felt logical to me. I don't understand. Like, I knew I was having a kid, right? So the idea of, oh, now I'm a dad, I knew that already. I've been planning for that for the last 9 months. So the fact that he was now there didn't, nothing changed in the math. And literally in that moment, right, when I have this newborn baby in my hands, or what have you, I loved it, sure, right? I was excited, I was happy, but it didn't change anything in that moment, aside from the fact of like, oh, I need to now figure out exactly how to hold it and to do all these things. And again, maybe somebody would look at that and say, well, like, you're kind of an asshole, or you're kind of cold, or, you lack emotion or love. Maybe, maybe, right? But for me, it was just never the case. Now, with that said, I do believe, at least again for me, that having a child has fundamentally changed my life. Just not in that moment. In a much more logical way, for me, it didn't happen until he was a good bit older, right? Until he was an age where there was actual like real interaction there. There was actual real like mental connection to where things I would say or try and show him or teach him, I could tell he was picking up and he could give feedback to, and there was actually like a conversation, not maybe a literal one, but there was some back and forth. There was some engagement between us. And at that point, right, and now as I look back at it, and he's 7, and hopefully there's more of this to come, now I could say, as I look at it over the body of work over the last 7 years, I feel that feeling. I feel what I think people say they feel or do feel in the moment they look in their child's eyes, right, where everything's different, it's changed everything about you. And what I appreciate about, and it's not to say other people are wrong, right? Again, maybe I'm wrong, but it's just what works for me. What resonates so much more deeply with me in the way that I view it is that I can look at it and understand why. I can actually point to the logic or the math as to like, hey, what's fundamentally changed? Why do I feel like a different person? Why have these things changed about me? And to me, that's just much more impactful. It's much more real and genuine for me. It's not to knock anybody else. It's just for me. So why, right? For me, I guess there's 2 key components to it. There's probably a lot, but I'll try and sum it up into 2 for the sake of a video. On the one hand, when you're raising a kid, right, when you're kind of molding somebody who doesn't know how to live in the world, doesn't know what they're doing, and you're trying to teach them those things, it becomes so reflective as you tell them things that they should be doing, and you start thinking about the ways they should act or respond in certain situations, the way they should control their emotions, the way they should think, the way they should treat people. It's almost, for me again, almost impossible not to then reflect that back on me and say, wait, am I doing that? Is that the way I actually do it, or is that just the way I aspire to do it? And it becomes such a forced reflection to understand how you're living and what you're doing. And are you actually living up to the ideals that you are telling your child, in my case, my son, to live up to? So it really forces that accountability and that reflection. And for me, that's forced a lot of changes, because one of the things I value most is being genuine, being truthful, being honest to what you are. And to be dishonest in that case, to tell him one thing and for me to do another, I can't have that. And there was too many instances where that was the case. So the decision was either tell him to do the wrong thing, don't like that, allow for that lie to exist where I'm telling him one thing, I'm doing another, don't want that, or change and make those things align. And that's something I found myself forced to do. And that was a big change. There was a lot of things that changed for me over that. The other thing is, just the thing I think about most is when I tell him about my life, when I tell him about the decisions or the choices or the beliefs, the values that I have, am I proud of it? Can I be proud to tell him this is what I do? This is how I spend my time. This is how I treat your mother. this is what I pursue in life. This is what brings me fulfillment. This is what I do in difficult situations. Am I proud of that? Can I look at him and say, if 50 years from now, I'm kind of going through the catalog of my life, or he is, better said, and he's looking at it, would I be proud of it? Right? Would I be proud to put that in front of him and say, hey, this was your dad. This is what I was. And that's also changed me a lot. Everything to me is a calculation, right? It's all cost benefit analysis. That cost of having him look at that and say, like, why'd you do that? Like, why'd you work this job that you hated for 30 years? Right? If you thought it was so meaningless, why'd you do that? Not in like a judgmental way where like I feel like he's making me feel shame per se, but just more on a like, I wouldn't want him to do that. I wouldn't want him to think that's the model. So I guess it relates to the first point a little bit, but I've just found myself trying to say, what can I feel proud of, right? I have this person who looks up to me, and as many children do, 7 years old, he's still somewhat in that phase where hopefully there's some degree of like idolization, and you're a hero as a parent. You have so much power and influence. They look to you so much. So what do you do with that power, right? Spider-Man, great power comes great responsibility. What do you do with that? Am I utilizing that in the right way? Am I teaching him and showing him things that I would be proud, that would actually, when he does hopefully look at me somewhat as like a hero to him or somebody that he admires, is it warranted? Is it justified? I want the answer to that question to be yes. And as a result of that, again, that's fundamentally caused me to change in so many ways, to try and be a better person, to try and get that answer to yes. And somebody might say, well, that's maybe superficial, or, you're not doing it for the right reasons. But I think if the values are right, right? If you're acting in good faith, and it's because you want to be a better person and you want your child to be a better person, I don't think there's many better impetuses or motivations to change than that.